Welcome back to Saturday of round 6 of the OPL. My name is Michael Hingersing, and if you're just joining us, Sinner up 1-0 over XL5 in this, our second match of the day. Joining me to get into game 2, I'm joined by Alex from Fairfax, an esports journalist, and also our in-house OPL analyst, Mendrix. And guys, obviously going into this, the first thing XL5 are going to look towards doing is completing a full-on draft. But Mendrix, what else do they need to be looking to do?
So I think that's one thing, definitely. But what they really need to look to do is continue to follow up off their objectives when they win a team fight. They need to follow up with something appropriately. I mean, they had the opportunity to even go for a Baron then originally, and they decided to go for top lane afterwards. And it's really those little mistakes that really can change the face of a game if you actually clean them up.
I would say, though, that the fights that they did win, it wasn't necessarily their fault that they weren't able to capitalize. There was one moment at the Baron where they probably could have gone for it because Renekton didn't have any flash. But for the most part, it was Sin handing them sort of free kills that weren't really leading anywhere more than anything.
We also saw T-Gun's strategy of killing, dying less than your opponent dies didn't really work out because obviously, as we've said a lot of times, it's a game of objectives, not necessarily a game of kills. Do you think this is going to be the bloodiest series we've ever seen? I mean, it probably won't go to 3 games, or maybe it will. Who knows?
I mean, based off what we just saw there, it was pretty controlled again from both of these teams. And I was expecting, again, Sin to do more in that specific game, considering the champions that were picked. When you got a Renekton, when you've got a Syndra, those guys are typically stone cold killers. They want to get into a team fight and make it happen. And Alex made the excellent point that there's a Shen. Shen really does sort of negate all that aggression. So maybe that might be an idea for Sin to sort of take that off the board so we can see that bloodbath that we want to see.
Yeah, I think if Sin are going to play 1-4, I would like to see them play a much more active 1-4 than what they did that last game. I know Ryoma was brought in to play these kind of control mages, but the fact that they have such a raw mechanical edge over X5, I think this is a good opportunity for them to play a bit more aggressively and learn how to close out these games faster.
And what's weird about it as well, I mean, typically you expect to see a control mage. Syndra is more typical of being an assassin. She's ready to, dominate your lane, get those initial kills. Sure, she's got a bit of poke later towards the game when she does get to that point, but at the end of the day, she's all about that amazing damage she brings.
Yeah, absolutely. The main thing for me, at least, is that Ryoma is most at home on those champions, like you said, Azir, Victor, Cassiopeia. But I think Syndra is sort of moving towards that more bursty, like literally you just explained. But I would like to see if he can develop a playstyle on champions that aren't these sort of backline mages. That's a really good opportunity for Sin and something that Wizard could do. And maybe Ryoma can bring the best of both worlds together,
Well, do you think XL5 can claw back a victory in this entire series? I mean, or given how the game ended with Sin making mistakes and still winning, I mean, is it going to be a 2-0?
you need something to push you from a good game to a win.
Sure.
So what it was for X5 that game, it was taking the opportunities they had, but those opportunities weren't really going anywhere. And that's, again, not necessarily their fault as far as decision-making goes. But you need to be more than proactive in taking chances given to you. You need to push the envelope, and you need to jump on those opportunities before they even occur.
All right, so what you're saying is, it's unlikely.
Yeah, anything could happen.
We're trying to find into the right things. And again, it is like you said, you need to push the envelope. You need to be on point. You need to be proactive. And they had that in the early game. They just need to translate that to the mid game and to the late game as well.
All right, well, let's talk about our mid laners because they are, as we said, the new kind of elements to both of these teams. Midbeast kind of had an all right game. Ryoma, I don't think he'd necessarily be happy with his first game despite the fact that they took a win. What are your thoughts on that, Alex?
I think he was maybe caught off guard by just how well Midbeast was coming out. There's probably jokes in the Sin Gaming house about Midbeast being like a YouTube fiend or something.
Absolutely. I mean, and for Juves to call him out and then for him to like get first blood on him with that kill, it's like... It's great drama.
Alternatively, you could be Ryoma and you're like, hey man, you're kind of throwing me under the bus here. What if he claps me, How am I going to look?
I mean, in terms of both their performances, they were exceptional. I mean, both at some point were a 2-0 early game. Specifically, then they didn't really have that, the major impact that we expected to see them towards that late game. That's why we had these more sort of crazier team fights happening left, right, and center, whereas the mid laners tend to sort of overpower towards those late games.
So it's kind of good, actually, that they are that they are settling in against each other, right? Maybe said that last week. This week has had 2 weeks of scrimming and training, and now Ryoma debuting against someone who hasn't been fully comfortable in that role yet. So he's got to be feeling like this is kind of an escape for him.
Yeah, this is a a golden opportunity to settle in with the team, to get used to their system, to learn what's expected of him and what he can expect in return.
I can tell you, it's early aggression. That's what
Yeah.
Juice wants.
That's what we want as well, isn't it?
wants. Nothing but early aggro and lots of biffo.
Yeah.
It's coming down from the CEO himself.
But it'd be great to see, what he actually does this game. Because, I mean, I'd like to see him on a more control-esque mage coming through. I'd like to see him on that Azir or perhaps on an Orianna, something that really shows where he shines, what he's capable of specifically. And if he's able to do that and hold off against any aggression mid-beast might be able to put out there, he'll be hitting like a freight rate train towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't expect Sin to come into game 2 playing as sloppy as they did in game 1. Maybe X5 will come at them with something else as well. But really, this is a really good opportunity for Sin to show us what they could look like, It's X5, it's an opponent they're definitely stronger than. This is an opportunity for them to play at their best.
All right, well, that is all from us here at the Analyst Desk. So let us get into game 2 by throwing to our casters, Spawn and Fish.
Thank you very much, Hingers. We are about to get into the second match between XL5 and Sin. And Rogue went on Twitter in between that match and said it was a Sin ARAM in every single lane, and I absolutely agree.
I don't know how that works. An ARAM is all random, all mid. So I think that you guys need to redefine what ARAM means.
I don't know. It was all random lanes. We had 80 carry support top lane, mid lane, mid lane and top lane, bottom lane, and then Juve's mid. I think that's quite random in terms of prioritization of lane setup.
Yep, so it's an AR. The all mid part is still missing from your ARAM.
AR, AL. All random, all lanes.
There you go. You got something there.
Well, we are into champion select for the second match between Sin and XL5. Sin pulling an X5 already.
Not banning the first time. Well, as you can see, was too busy taking some sips from his water bottle. Wasn't able to get that one done in time. Interestingly enough, I want to touch on what Alex was talking about. You can't just take a fight and expect to win the game. You actually have to be able to set up waves and things like that. The problem is that when you fall behind 4,000 gold, you might be strong enough to win a snap decision fight. You might be able to get, that pick, that big 3-man taunt into the Cassiopeia damage. But what you won't be able to do, which is what we saw in this game, is you won't be strong enough to proactively push the lanes over and over again to get yourself in a position to be able to, control waves and things like that. Especially when you're playing against a 1-4 comp where they're putting so much effort into shoving it in to that Shen lane. What you can do, however, is prioritize early picks that have good lane control, push, and then an aggressive jungler. I talk about it all the time, but sometimes when you're getting beaten in an unorthodox way, you just have to pick purely for the laning phase.
So unfortunately, we have a couple of technical difficulties. We'll have to see if that's what was causing the missing bans coming out from Sin. But when I was watching that game Spawn, I had no idea how XL5 were losing that match because it looked like everything was just so close. Is that why they were losing? They just had no way to actually capitalize off of their winning fights.
Yeah, exactly right. So what happens if you're always fighting on your side of the map? Not only do you have to win a team fight, which we saw a couple of times, and you have to spend that 10 seconds to push the waves back out of your base, then another 10 seconds to, prioritize an objective. And that just means that those 20-second death timers, they don't mean anything. And then as you're getting later and later into the game, if mid-beast didn't back in that top lane fight and goes towards Baron, potentially heals up. That's what Cassiopeia's passive gives, a little bit of that spell vamp. You can start taking some of these objectives. And I feel like you do have to play a little bit more risky as opposed to risk adverse. Because if you're X5, you're not going to win these close games unless you're willing to throw an unorthodox play out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, going for the low risk, low reward plays from XL5. Not able to pick up a win there against Sin, but still coming into this week, they've had 2 weeks of break. They brought in mid-beast. He's played 2 weeks
great.
OPL now. He looks really good. But XL5 actually, shortening up a lot of the weaknesses they had coming into the first few weeks of the OPL.
Yeah, completely agree. Crazy had a good game. Mid-beast on your screen there. He was actually playing really well. 528 stood up. Didn't agree with the item build. And I feel like I keep saying this about 528. He's doing the right things with the buttons. He's just not hitting the right things in the shot. Because if he had a Tiamat a little bit earlier in that game, all of a sudden he's shoving the wave out. He's not being pushed upon as hard as what he was. And I do feel like actually T-Gun and Guts were the unsung heroes of that game. Because anytime they wanted to fight, they were just throwing themselves. And they were like, I hate to use the word, cannon fodder. They were those poor serfs in medieval time that had to march towards a wall and get hot oil poured on them. Because they eventually, they had to just get in there and pretty much throw themselves at the enemy to start the fight because they were that far behind.
Yeah, well, Tegan as well having... I want to call it a captain's game. They played really well, but he's been slumping in the first few weeks in the
Yeah.
OPL. So good to see he's playing well. Crazy stepping up was a huge surprise for me.
Yeah, it certainly was. Across the other side of the rift, though, you do have to sing the praises of Sin, because the reason that XL5 weren't in a winning position is because Sin, time and time again, had all 3 lanes shoved and were losing the minimum. They were able to get early dragons, early turret kills, really nice setup around the map. And I feel like that does come down to, the cohesiveness, the willingness to play proactive forward League of Legends, and teams aren't punishing them for going over aggressive.
They certainly aren't. You can see Ryoma on your screen there. The new mid laner for Sin. Can't tell too much about his performance there against XL5. It was a very scrappy game. Did play decently well, but would like to see if there's going to be a drastic difference having Ryoma in instead of Wizard as we go down the next few weeks in the OPL.
Yeah, certainly didn't. I mean, he stood up well in lane. One thing that I think the analyst desk maybe didn't touch on as much as I would have is, even though he was falling slightly, like he was being pressured in lane, when your when your jungler gives the mid lane a double buff at level 3 into the game, mid lane becomes really damn hard to perform in, because all of a sudden the auto attack part of mid lane, which is so important in going for these trades, they really hurt. I mean, the slow is there, it sets up poison for Cassiopeia, and just the extra gold, I mean, going towards tier, going towards early MR, I mean, it upsets the balance of the lane. So for Ryoma to come back so strong into that late game, I do think he would be happy with that game, but I certainly think that, I mean, he smacked Juves up along the backside of the head and said, don't give mid-base double buff again in this game, please, especially when he's playing Cassio.
Yeah, especially after you call out the person that takes you down for first blood.
Yeah, and Juves was like covert ops. He was like hiding around a corner on the wrong side of the map. I mean, he really thought he was going to make something happen. I don't know exactly what he thought he was going to make happen, but it was going to be something.
Yeah, he thought he was 007. Instead, he was a little bit of a 5-2-8 in that fight. Speaking of the top lane, Flares having a stand-up performance on the Renekton in this match. Something we expected from him when he joined Sit. Importing over from North America, now playing in the Oceanic Pro League. But this was one of the first few games where it really feels like he's going back to the playstyle we recognized him for.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what did he go? Bloodthirster is his last item?
Yes.
Certainly was an aggressive Renekton. However, once again, I feel like that was jungle influenced. It was Guts going for a gank when everyone knows you just don't gank Renekton at that stage of the game, and made pay.
Yeah, level 6 Renekton a little bit hard to take down. Unfortunately, the technical difficulties are taking some time to resolve. So for now, let's give it back to the analyst desk to take this one away.
Well, there we have it. Technical difficulties mean we are going to experience a slight delay here. So rather than making our casters talk on and on and on with nothing, let us go back to our analyst desk, because Alex and Mendrix, what did we see from there? We saw one ban, which was LeBlanc, and then I think we saw a missed ban. So what does that tell us about the game?
Well, it tells us it's an open book at the moment. I mean, LeBlanc means that there will be some early bloodshed happening early, most likely. That is a very aggressive champion that you do want to play into the game, and whether it be roaming or getting that first blood in the early game against their lane opponent.
I can tell you, it's an audio issue with one of the coaches' headsets, and obviously during these draft sections, the coaches are really obviously in control. They are saying, look, here's what our opponents are doing, here's what we're doing, and this is the strategy. And so obviously if they can't talk during this, or if they can't hear what the players are saying, that's very, very difficult. Alex, let's talk about there's Jordy there. He's yeah, looks like he's trying to listen.
Less than pleased. I don't know. Yeah.
Looking very frustrated. That is the perhaps of the technical difficulties. I don't know. Actually, I should say I don't know if it's Jordy's headset or if it's Bensel's headset, which is malfunctioning. But we are in a technical delay as we wait to get back in. All right. Well, Alex, before we go back in, have you had any time to reconsider your prediction for this game before we go back?
I'm going to double down on it. So far, so good, right?
Mendrix?
I'm still, I'll be doubling down too as well. I don't want to really give you the satisfaction of managing to pick up something over me, so we're going to try and keep it as if 100% against you the entire time, Alex.
Fair enough. Cowards, a lot of you. All right, that is enough from us. Let us get back, because I do believe the audio issue is resolved. So let's throw it back to our casters, Spawn and Fish.
Wait, they doubled down on their bets, but they're cowards here. Hingers, come on, man. It's been like 5 minutes. They're not going to flip-flop. That doesn't give you opportunity
We
to try and
literally
change
saw
it.
a misban and a throwaway ban. I mean, I don't even understand what they're analyzing at this point. I mean,
Something's going on over there.
yeah, they can do them. Let's do us.
Yeah, it's okay. We're back here on the good side of the rift, apparently. As
You're
I
out
get,
of control.
As people are now staring. I'm actually scared for my life now. I'm going to hide behind Spawn for a bit as this Champions League goes through.
I feel like if you say that you're stronger than someone in the morning, you can't hide behind them in broadcast.
It's cannon fodder. It's not that. You're
It's not that you expect. It's cannon fodder. All right.
But now that we are back into Champions League, and it seems like those technical difficulties have been resolved, as we do have a ban coming out from Sin to kick us off. But what are we going to expect to change heading into this match?
I mean, as I said, I expect X5. I mean, I honestly don't know what they're going through. So either they put this down to growing pains and they say we're going to keep picking comps that are good in the mid to late game, and we get a game eventually where we're pushing. Or you do the opposite, which is what I was a big fan of doing, and we say we pick 3 winning lanes and a winning jungler, and we try and get a good early game. And then, if we can't execute on the mid-late game with that comp, then we can revert back. But we need to get the first things first right, and that is being able to get some winning lanes on Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, unfortunately as well, according to T-Gun, having more kills than the opponent means you win. That's already been debunked. Myth busted in Game 1 here between XL5 and Sin. Hopefully Game 2 will be a better story for them. For now though, bans have been completed in the first stage of bans here as Rengar, Graves and Varus were taken away by Sin. They get first pick, whereas Ivan, Jace and LeBlanc were banned out by XL5. They take away Guts Elise.
Yeah, they certainly do. Camille is still available. See whether 528 wants to pick that up. Has had it in one game versus the Chiefs where he solo killed Swiper a couple of times, who was playing the ultimate counter in Alawi. That turned out to be a myth and debunked as well in the same game. So, you know, we're just breaking myths everywhere on the OPL at the moment.
Yeah, swap it over. We're not OPL, no, we're the Mythbusters of League of Legends here.
Of course, trademarked by a different company. Please don't come after us. So, yeah, we'll see how this one goes.
XL5 here going to be locking in Jhin as their first pick, so we should see the very standard junglers as well as bot lane pickups from these two teams. Wouldn't be surprised if that stays true. But we see a lot of Jhin priority when Varus is banned out or picked first by the other team. I haven't seen too much Ashe being picked up here in the OPL. We've seen a little bit of Ezreal so far today.
And that was interesting. At IEM, when we saw East versus West clash, or rather like Taiwan and Korea clash with Europe, what we saw in differences is that a big priority on the LMS and LCK on Ashe versus the Jhin, because they felt like the wave clear wasn't really there. I mean, the laning phase wasn't as good, and they felt the initiation out of Ashe really caused Jhin some troubles. I tend to agree with them. I think that the Jhin priority, especially now that his 2-item spike has been dropped a little bit,
Yep.
I definitely don't think it is all that much what it was built up to be.
On top of that, I believe it was Froskuren who was telling us that a lot of the teams from the LMS were favoring the Ashe because she can go Warlords and trade very well with a Jhin or Varus in lane, and pick up incremental advantages nice and early from that. And that's actually going to be the pick that gets locked in here for Sin, and decide not to take their support. Instead, they lock in Renekton for flares nice and early.
Yeah, so they picked that one up. See where the 528 wants to take Camille into it. It's definitely a dangerous matchup. Feel like that would be another sweep matchup where you would just try and keep yourself topped off until you get to the mid game. Poppy, much safer.
And something that's banned out quite a lot against 528 as well. Very comfort pick for the second YouTuber of this team. He made a nice video for you recently as well, Spawn.
Certainly did. I mean, the man's on point. There's the reason that I shout him out as many times as possible. Very talented on and off Summoner's Rift.
So now we are into the second ban phase between these two teams. Sin still looking for a support and mid laner. Is XL5 actually looking for the exact same thing. I'll go over there now. This is why they pay you to be the analyst.
It is a little bit weird that they went Poppy over Shen, especially with Kha'Zix, because Kha'Zix has much better backline access than what Elise does. You saw that Elise time and time again had to like flash in, whereas Kha'Zix just stealths up, hits the E, and is on the back line. So that's generally where you see Shen come in. However, I do like the fact that, you know, if 528 isn't comfortable playing like Tiamat, doesn't want to go toe-to-toe with the Renekton damage-wise, Poppy makes sense, because it does have better wave clear. With that Q, able to hold it off turret a little bit better. You know, also has pretty good trading in lane versus Renekton. As he dives in, you hit Q, and then he has to kind of wait there with the stun while it explodes underneath his feet. So there are ways for 528 to win this lane matchup. Just think it's a little bit interesting that now that they have the jungler for it, they don't go the Shen.
Again, W also able to keep him off, which is a nice ability for Poppy to have, and it's going to stop a lot of champions being picked up by Sin here. That do get quite heavily countered by Poppy. The bans have gone through in the second ban rotation. Nami and Karma taken away by Sin, two of the more sustained / pushing supports in the current meta. Whereas heavy bans towards the mid lane of Ryoma here. Cassiopeia and Syndra taken off the table, the two champions we saw last game.
Yeah, exactly right. So mid base throwing those ones out the window, definitely doesn't want to play them. I like when Sin do this. force a melee support or an unorthodox like Soraka or Sona in the bottom lane, and then Rogue has his pick of whatever he wants to play. Does it want to be a Vel'Koz game for Rogue? Does he want to take Thresh into the matchup because he is so good on the non-core supports right now that I feel like this is a strength that Sin can continue to look to go towards.
One of the strongest players in the team as well. Sin will be locking in Orianna for Ryoma
And
and
Studios.
Zyro being picked up for Rogue. That's an incredibly strong bottom lane for Sin.
It's a strong bottom lane. I feel like it used to be stronger, and I feel like that's kind of boring. I was kind of hoping that it was like the Vel'Koz that was going to come in. That would be incredible pushing power. However, you know, you don't always get what you want.
XL5 still looking for their final pick here for Mid Beast.
You don't even like finish my song quotes anymore. And all of a sudden, XL5, they've changed mid laners 3 times, but they're still just a team that
Yep.
plays Ahri.
You can take
No
the,
other team plays it.
You can take the mid laner out of XL5, but you can't take the Ahri out of the mid lane for them.
Yep.
As picking up Ignite heading into this one as well. XL5. We're going to try and see if they can pick up a few kills here. It's actually a matchup we saw played in the EU LCS. It was Ahri going up against Orianna, and Ahri actually came out on top there.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot, but Ahri got dashes, little gaps placed between her dashes. She can no longer just like dash, 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 how she could on release, and it was really strong. Also, it's strange. Some people like are 2 or 3 points into E and then max W. Some people still just max W for the upfront burst. The jury's still out on that one for me. So I think that Ahri can do some different things in this, but Orianna still has windows, as all Orianna matchup does. If you get 2 items unharassed, Orianna's a beast, but we'll see whether Mid Beast is able to push it.
So I'm looking at Sin's team comp here, and just looks like they have a fantastic team fighting team comp. And again, for a team that really wants to go towards 1-4, they've got a great Renekton that just moves into the side lanes.
Yeah, look, they have everything you want out of a team fighting comp. I mean, they have Initiation, they have Peel, like that's Ashe and Zyra, then they have really good Wombo combo on top of it. However, what I will say is Elise always doesn't really quite fit into team fighting team comps because she doesn't really have a defined role. And Renekton is, in my opinion, god-awful in team fights. So I think that on the other side, XL5 have a good comp. They also have great pick out of the Ahri as well as Kha'Zix. So I'm not too like worried about the fight here. I just think that the pushing lanes is a big issue. I mean, they have to get a pushing lane here, XL5, and I don't think they've picked one again.
And it seems like that was the downfall of their team comp last game. Although they looked great and showed up a lot of their weaknesses, just didn't have the ability to capitalize on the advantages they picked up time and time again. We are getting onto Summoner's Rift for the second match between Sin and XL5 here. As both teams just kind of spread out across the river. XL5 grouping up a little bit to start things off, but no one is on that side of the map at the moment.
Yeah, exactly right. They might, however, be able to get behind the Zyra. We've seen this a couple of times. Zyra likes to place down plants in the lane, so if she ever walks up aggressively, what you can do is walk in behind her and potentially get a sneaky killfish. We'll see whether that is the case.
XL5 have moved around the red buff side of the map.
Here we go.
Yeah, you can just get caught up here, and Rogue says, thanks for the goal, guys. Gonna chunk you out as well, and now you're gonna have to go back to base. FBI even doing a little bit of a dance as well. Sin should be happy with that, but for now, let's check in with Bensel, who's standing by with Hingers.
Thanks, guys. I'm joined here by Coach of Sin, Bensel, and I want to ask you about that first game. Obviously, a scrappy win for you guys, and also I want you to focus in on how Ryoma played in that first game.
I think Ryoma did his job. He was put under a lot of pressure in that game, and I think he responded fairly well to it. Early game, I think jitters probably got to him, but by the mid game, he looked comfortable in his groove. As for the game as a whole, pretty messy, but at least we followed through with the game plan. I mean, that's something.
As a coach, you can be
happy about that, but you know, obviously it should have been closed down much more easily.
All right, let's talk about this draft. You've seen Flares is picking up Renekton. Is this something he's been playing a lot of recently or before?
Yeah, I mean, it suits him really well. He likes playing with damage.
Yep.
He likes playing with shoving lanes. And, you know, Renekton offers that, and you have a solid mid-game plan and something to play around in the early game.
Is this what we're going to see more of with this new solidified lineup now? Just a lot more damage out of the top lane?
Not necessarily. I think it changes with what champion, you know, we want to play in the top lane. Obviously, there are other good champions like Shen and Rumble and Camille that you can pick in this meta. I think they're probably the top champions. So the comp changes based on what those do, but playing around what you pick in top lane, I think is pretty important right now.
All right, well, let us get into the game. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and yeah, best of luck.
Not a problem.
There you go, Bensel. Pretty happy with Ryoma after he was pretty much camped out by Guts in that game and still holding his own nice and well against Midbeast.
Yeah, I definitely agree with him that he was camped incredibly hard. He had double buff given to his opponent in Midbeast, and he came out the other end pretty much unscathed. So continues to put in work, of course, formerly of the Chiefs, and before that was at Legacy Genesis for a very long time. And as all Legacy Genesis players, I just feel like I say this over and over again. I mean, they scout incredibly well. They bring in fantastic talent from people like Impaired to Claire that have been around for a very long time and continue to do well that all.
So moving towards the top side of the map, Flair's getting a good trade against 528, but does take a turret shot here. We'll have Juves moving up into the top lane. Elise is really good at these early tower dives.
She is, but this is risky because 528 still is a pretty tanky dude.
And if they do get a kill here, it's a big minion wave. He's trying to run, will get cocooned and locked down. First blood easily picked up by Juves.
All right, so that's easy because 528 didn't flash a cocoon. I have no idea why, Fish, but he chose to just stand still and eat it. If he flashes that cocoon, it's a much more difficult turret dive. However, not the case when you just eat the CC.
It must have just tasted purple or something here as 528's forced to use teleport to get back to lane. Flair's going to do what he did last game and just get as much trade damage and get this pushing as much as he can before he goes back to base and tries to capitalize on his advantage.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, he's 13 CS up already, has that assist to his name. So great start to the game out of Sin. But once again, I just feel like that is a little bit of an unforced error. Guts coming into the bottom lane. Big creep wave here.
FBI and Rogue do get back to safety before he can get the wraparound. So they do spot him out. Meanwhile, we move back into the mid lane. Midbeast against Roma. From what I know, this does go in favor of Orianna to kick things off. You can always hear Roma trying to zone out Midbeast as much as possible. The CS is still fairly even. 528 still taking a beating in this top lane.
He might even be dead again.
W was very late coming up to 528 after the damage from Flares and the taunt goes through, or dash, sorry. Oh, he's gone in. Does get a shield as he hits a minion. That's going to keep him alive. But that should mean he's going to go back to base.
Potentially. I mean, he can stay underneath the turret and see if he can withstand a dive. I feel like he has to at this point in the game.
Guts is close by. He's going to get jumped on. He's going to jump onto Flares, I should say. That's half his health gone. Will allow 528 to pick up the minions underneath the turret. Double Doran's Blade and a longsword being picked up by this Renekton.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, that's the aggressive build that we like to see out of lane bullies like Renekton. Needs to continue to put in work, and I feel like this is like a 3 losing lane situation. Guts does the right thing. I mean, this is what I was calling for last game. Just if you're the jungler and your lanes are losing this high, just go into their lane, eat a creep wave, and send them back to base, because it doesn't get better if you sit there with no health. I mean, eventually you're going to have to shop. Why not just get it done nice and early, be able to maybe get back into the lane and have some success? That was the luckiest bounce I've ever seen.
Desperately trying to avoid it, even Rogue running away from FBI, but Crazy's got some homing beacons on his Qs there.
It's kind of like Misfortune double up. Just when I think I understand the range of that ability, one of them hits me like sideways off a cannon creep, and I die, and I'm like, that made no sense at all.
For now, though, Sin very happy with their lane assignment here. FBI and Rogue doing a very good job against Crazy and Tegan. This is to be expected, though, when you go Jhin, Tahm Kench into an Ash Zyra.
Yeah, you're not going to win the lane, that's for sure. And this is what I said. I feel like at some point you have to pick winning lanes. You're not winning top lane, you're not winning bottom lane, you're not even winning mid lane at this stage. So the game just gets impossible to play. And you can see that Flares has the deepest freeze on Renekton, level 6 versus level 5. 5-8 can't approach.
Which is really different from how he played last game. He was constantly shoving in, trying to push his advantage there. Now freezing up the lane, looking for a time to go in and trade against 5-8. Still in the bottom lane here, but it's top lane. There's fighting happening. Flair's going aggressive against 5-8. Chunks him down to below 400 health.
And all of a sudden, Kha'Zix is on the wrong side of the map. 5-8 probably has to back because he knows Juves is up there. And that's going to be 2 levels for Flares. I mean, that's just monstrous. And in fact, he's gone back towards a turret, and Juves might be able to pick him up anyway.
It's blast coned over the wall, but the ward will spot him out. Flares is now just going to put in his best Singed impersonation as he proxy farms in between the 2 turrets, and 5-8 just watches helplessly as Guts is on the complete wrong side of the map, taking away red buff.
I mean, he's on the other side of the map. There is an Infernal Dragon there. He gets level 6 and is able to maybe get that. for himself. Won't be all that bad, but you can see 5 to 8. He's just been hard proxied on.
Go back to base.
I feel no, I don't. You can't. I mean, he has absolutely no items to pick up. I mean, he has to try and get back underneath his turret and live through a dive and hopefully get a return kill, because otherwise he's just lane over.
Here comes Flares, just going to waltz through the lane, does get a good stun going. Charge goes back from 5 to 8, now down to half health, and Juice says, all right, let's go for round 2 of the dives in the top lane. 5 to 8, he is stuck between a crocodile and a spider, kind of like living in Australia at the moment. He's trying to dodge through all of this damage. Let's see what he can do. Cocoon does not connect, gets a nice shield here. Here's level 6, pops the ultimate, knocks Juves out of there, and that's how you live down under.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much perfectly played. Doesn't burn a flash or anything like that. Going to give his team a scaling dragon. However, that is 2,000 gold and potentially the top lane turret already falling. So you got to take the good when it comes, I guess, if you're an XL5 fan, but not all that much good. It's going to be even more.
Yep, Steve Irwin still loses his turret in the top lane as that gets taken down by Flares. XL5 trying to do what they can on the bottom side of the map to shore up the disadvantage. They take blue buff as well as the Infernal Dragon. Guts will now head back to base after getting taken out pretty low there.
Yeah, and I mean, even though Infernal Dragon's good, 3,000 gold lead, definitely better. And I feel like they should be trying to, I don't know, can you fight that 2v2? There has to be something you can do if you're X5 that's a better position. I mean, you actually, I know what you can do. You can flash the first gank and not be put in that position in the first place.
Get a time machine for this man. He needs one.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's how it goes, right? If you lose the lane this heavily against Renekton, he's going to continue to exploit that advantage.
Well, 5 to 8, still a level behind Renekton. He is rushing his Black Cleaver, opting not to go for the Tiamat, does not need the wave clear with the advantage he has now.
You can see them potentially setting up a gank in the mid lane. Ryoma has got flash as well as exhaust, and it's the shortest lane on the map. I think that that's maybe optimistic.
5 to 8 just wants to survive in this top lane. He's 30 CS behind Flares at the moment. Just trying to be as relevant as possible in this game. It's going to take some time before this tank
Flares
comes
is still
online.
freezing on him. I mean, pulls the creeps, lets them go, still firmly on his side of the map. This is just so aggressive.
There's a Kerner call and a Tahm Kench moving into the bottom lane. Good snare coming out from Rogue. FBI going to be able to flash away. They'll live for this one now. Double teleports. Flares is going in. Tegan eats up his jungler, spits him back out to safety. He will flash away, and Flares getting taken out very low. Crazy is the target.
Here.
He's not going to try and go in. He's got 4 juicy targets to go for. Does get stunned down. Now Ryoma is coming down as well. Good engages from both teams and disengaging as well.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that was the play that X5 were looking for. They needed to be able to pick up some kills, weren't able to get them. Lots of summoner spells burnt. And you can see that they're still pushing for it. They need to make something happen here.
Ooh, Juves is being locked down. Does get a shield from Orianna. Mid-beast all the way in the backside for a flank here. But Sin are holding their ground. It's a big 5-on-5 as the blast cone comes out from Guts, looking to try and get around the back. He's very low. Shockwave is just zoning the rest of XL5. And they're losing position on this map. As Sin just stick to the guns, say, we're going to take your bottom lane turret if you don't go home.
Yeah, Ryoma is currently backing on a ward. You can see that they just want to be able to reset this bottom lane and maybe move towards being able to clean up their other waves. Really nicely executed from Sin. They got a lot of damage done onto that bottom turret. However, ooh, is top lane still frozen? It looks like it is. So yeah, that's even worse right now if you're X5, because just when you think 5 to 8's caught a break, he has to use teleport and gets absolutely nothing from it.
Unfortunately, it was still frozen there. Fortunately for Flares, that was frozen heavily in his favor. 5 to 8 has no wave to catch after that bounce, and Flares already a level up.
I mean, he has nowhere to go at all.
He's on to Krugs at the moment. That's all he can take as a top laner.
But all of a sudden, your carry jungler in Kha'Zix is just having his jungle taken away. Ooh!
They're going to get a kill in the bottom lane. Crazy takes down Rogue. Juice comes down for a gank. So that was a 2-on-3.
Yep.
XL5 get a good trade.
Yeah, exactly right. Proactive trade coming out of XL5. T-Gun didn't use great health there. Maybe would have been able to stay alive if it had have come out. Of course, that CC layering was nice out of Sin Gaming.
Yep. On top of that was crazy picking up a solo kill onto Rogue there. And again, 2 games in a row. Looking quite promising for XL5. Even in a losing lane, Ryan, we've got to be careful here because 5 to 8 is waiting in the wings. He flashes nice and early away from the charging Poppy.
Yeah, exactly right, because as soon as a ward goes over that wall, there's always the possibility that you're in range for a little bit of a wall slam. 5 to 8 does the right thing when you can't go back top. You have to try and make something else happen elsewhere. However, 2 levels down, 56 CS when you only have 61. It's a tough lane to re-enter, especially when you miss creep.
5 to 8. Tigon actually going to try and deliver Kha'Zix into the bottom lane again. FBI is stuck. Going to try and trade against the Kha'Zix, but the isolation damage is going to be way too much. They even give the kill over towards Crazy, who picks it up with a captive audience.
Yeah, really nice engage one more time. You can see it's just a rinse and repeat. Ooh, Midbeast goes aggressive.
Exhaust going to come down. He has a Crocodile right behind him, though. He will pick up the kill, and now Sin get to town on this mid lane turret.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be able to pick it up again, although 5 to 8 comes in, cleans house. You just see the presence of the young Poppy is enough, Fish.
70 CS to 120 at the moment. 50 behind the Renekton. 5 to 8 just happy that there's farms somewhere on the map. Don't send the minions away. You need those. That's the right target.
Oh, no, it's not. He should have sent the minions away.
He wants to farm spawn. He'll let his turret die for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a hole to climb out of right now. Flares is going to be able to grab himself a red buff as well. Guts has been strangled out of the game. 5 to 8's been strangled out of the game. And I feel like this is the story of the night. I mean, the underdog team has a good game one, but then, you know, the veteran teams in both Direwolves and Sin have cleaned it up a lot and are looking promising.
Yeah, they certainly have. I mean, only kills in the bottom lane right now for XL5, which was probably the last lane I would have looked at coming into this match to do well for the team, but I'm impressed that they have stepped up to the plate today. 5 to 8, unfortunately, having another one of those shaky games. Guts, though, performing well in both matches so far, but it just seems like his lanes haven't been going the way he needs them to.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, that's all it comes down to is you can't win the lanes. It's 5 to 8, and actually, Flares are having a little bit of a biff in the top lane. 5 to 8 gets forced right back to his base.
You can see his green health bar just only goes down to half in a split second, and the Poppy's running home.
Yeah.
Not even going to press B.
Exactly right. He's just footed it out of there. Second Infernal Dragon potentially going to be picked up here, although you expect it to be a fight because Teleport's coming in.
Flair's looking for a big flank in the back line since the Infernal Dragon's going low. Midbeast has been caught out, going to dash away. Ryoma now has the ball on top of the Dragon. That will fall going in favor of XL5. Midbeast deep into the back lines. FBI is going to get jumped on by Guts, but he's got no mana. And already Ryoma has a double kill. That's 3 kills for Sin. The 4th one gets picked up as well. And 5 to 8 just watches as the rest of his team crumbles.
Yeah, exactly right. All of a sudden, Flares is chasing him down, but another one team fight for Sin. Sure, double Infernal Dragon is good for XL5 if they ever get to a late game. However, right now, it is a 7,000 gold lead, and the whole game looks like it's Sin.
5 to 8, it's going to get locked down here. Flares jumps on forward, will be able to pick up that kill. That reminds me of solo queue of U-Spawn, where you just look at me and say, he still has Shockwave?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, how did he get a double kill without using his Shockwave, Fish? But in all seriousness, mid lane turret will go down. See whether any craziness ensues. Here we go.
Oh, Tigon wants a part of it. He's going to bring Guts into the back lines. He gets a nice and swift early kill. Sin, Flares as well as Juice trying to run. Good cocoon onto Crazy. Rogue's going to join the fight as well. That's a double kill for Guts. Tigon will get taken down by Flares, as it will be a kill going back on over towards Crazy. So good turnaround from XL5. Not much they can get out of it.
Oh, they can still push into mid lane. I mean, the tier 1 is up. We'll see whether they can actually take a turret for themselves. But that's exactly what they needed.
Oh, they found it. Rogue gets spotted out by a ward, and Crazy gets the execution there. Midbeast hops over the wall for that one.
So, exactly right. I mean, they're able to get 4 kills for absolutely nothing there. That was pretty good play coming out of X5. I mean, Sin looked very confident marching up mid lane. X5 make them pay for it.
They're still 7,000 gold behind, but 2 Infernal Dragons is great for XL5 to have if they want to try and keep their hopes alive in this game. They get the first turret for themselves as well, shortening that goal lead to just 6,000 and Sin's advantage.
And you would say that, you know, compositionally, there is still windows. I mean, if Poppy ever gets a late game, which she's so far away from right now, going to be a super tank, as we've seen time and time again. I mean, Ahri just has the ability to one-shot someone. He's a little bit behind, hasn't got the kills that Ryoma's got. But the game isn't over yet for X5. I mean, they're in a huge hole. They're in the bottom of a well, but they can maybe climb out. I mean, if Batman can do it with a broken back in that silly movie, then anyone can do it.
Batman can do it with a broken back, Mantis can do it with one arm. Surely XL5 can do it here against Sim, with a new roster that they've been practicing with for quite some weeks now. As we've mentioned throughout this series, they have improved drastically from when we first saw them in the OPL, and that's something that Tigon talks about every single week before and after his matches. That's exactly what XL5 are looking for.
And that play that they bounce back with, oh, Guts
Goes invisible, still gets locked down. Juice is here as well. Roma picks up an easy kill. Midbeast is looking to see if he can get anything going as the curtain call just makes Juice run around in circles for a bit. He's still doing it. It's down, buddy. You don't have to keep doing it anymore.
Yeah, absolutely no vision. Now T-Gun and Crazy caught out.
Crazy's actually going to get locked down. The ultimate comes out from Rogue, stuns up Tegan before he can get the Grey Health off again. And Sin get 2 picks just inside of XL5's jungle.
Yeah, and that puts them out to 8,000 gold. I mean, they cleaned up all the creeps across the map, and then they're able to get a couple of picks and now pressure the turrets again. That's the last thing you wanted if you're X5, because you just looked like you were going to get a sniff into this game, but they put it firmly away.
As Flair's flashing on forward on top of Midbeast. That's
aggressive.
A very tanky Crocodile. He's going to get slammed into the wall as well. Flair's is going to get a kill for himself. Juice picks that one up before he gets taken down. Aggressive play from Sin. They still trade 1 for 1. They might be able to take a turret for this too.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be the case. They already grabbed bottom lane turret for their trouble. Now they're looking towards mid as well as bottom. You can see Juves is actually there free hitting, and Elise takes turret surprisingly quickly.
Roma trying to zone them out with the ball. Here comes the Tegan delivery service as Guts actually hops away from the fight. Grey Health gets popped. He gets taken down. Big
Huge
shockwave coming out from Ryoma there as he flashes on forward. 2 kills already being picked up as they clean house of XL5 and look for the inhibitor.
Yeah, so Sin just able to get the read on that play. X5, they keep throwing the kitchen sink through this TK ultimate. But that time, Ryoma scouts it very nicely and comes up with a huge team fight.
On top of that, Flares is already on the top side of the map, looking to take down another inner turret for Sin. That one's going to fall. And already it's 11,000 gold lead with just 19 minutes into this game. Baron is not even on the table yet. Sin really cleaning up their gameplay in this match.
And really, it's just been a little bit of an outclass performance here. You can see that X5, they can go with them at times. There's been moments where they look good. But overall, I mean, just been all of Sin's game to win.
I mean, we can see the goal that's on your screen now. 4,000 in favor of the top lane, 1,000 in the jungle here, or 1,500 almost. Big goalie in the mid lane. Bottom lane, it's, I mean, Crazy's doing best on his team at the moment, but he's still 2,000 gold behind FBI.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like there's not all that much you can do at the end of the day. If you lose 3 lanes simultaneously, top lane is harder to do. And, unlock the map for Juice to be super aggressive. Guts and T-Gun have certainly tried again with the initiates. There's a reason that they have 7 deaths between them. T-Gun's about to pick up an 8.
T-Gun's going to try and run away. Grey Elf gets popped in time this time round. Will live in a sliver of hell, but Flair still wants to try and jump in wherever he can. Still moving forward. He's not stopping.
Certainly isn't. I mean, that's aggressive, continues to walk up. However, you can see that he's quite confident, and he should be because he's relatively fed. The guy goes over the wall towards top lane.
Oh, Jim's now 5 to 8. That's half your health gone. The Poppy now trying to run away from the spiders. Yeah, he's got no magic resistance right now. Swan's not great for the tanky top laner.
Yeah, I mean, he's just not a tanky top laner at the moment. He's just a top laner. You know, what can you do, really, Fish, when you're 11,000 gold down in 21 minutes of play? You've got the scaling dragons, but unfortunately you can't deal with super creeps that are streaming into your base.
No.
Gets very hard to win.
Sin now sieging the top lane. Inhibitor turret flares will get locked down. Gets a shield from the Orianna. Curtain Call coming out from Crazy. XL5 now it's do or die at the moment as they look for a fight. Tegan actually eats up the Crocodiles. Midbeast goes in. Locked down by FBI. He's going to be the first one to fall. Trying to get into the back lines here. As XL5 still holding strong. As Juice will repel back down. Guts in the back lines. They're looking like a good fight for them at the moment. As XL5, they see the blinking health bars of Sin. Ryoma Shockwave's on top of himself for 5 to 8 to get taken down. Tegan's the next target. Crazy somehow still alive. Rogue will live through the trouble. Tegan has to flash away as they tried their best there, Spawn, but it's just not enough against Sin.
And one more time, the fights actually look clean out of X5. They're a good team fighting team. They can just never get the map where they need it to be for any of these team fights to matter. And now with 2 inhibitors down, Sin actually just decide that their death timers aren't enough at the moment. They're going to walk away. I agree with them. 22 minutes in.
Here comes Simon Kench as well as Midbeast. Flashboard gets a shutdown. Now chasing on FBI and Rogue. Charm not going to be long enough here as XL5 get a kill and lose it and lose a Nexus turret for their troubles.
But, you know, this is how you actually build morale. This is how, you know, a team comes back together. They're absolutely getting destroyed at the moment, X5 in this game. But a couple of times they've been able to get those exit kills that have kept them just within enough distance. Let's have another look at it. I mean, T-Gun tried to eat flares out of the way, and then it was mid-base that went over the wall, and he just got blown up. At the end of the day, when Ryoma got kicked out, that should have been a kill onto Juves, but Crazy hit a creep. And that means that everyone else goes super deep for it. Juves does, in the end, get picked up, as does, I believe it was Flares. Yeah. And nearly Rogue as well, but you can't make little errors like that at the start of the fight and expect to win it, especially from that far down.
And FBI just reminds me of how Def plays is actually holding the arrow for the flanking play coming out, using it more as a defensive tool than something to initiate on. So still Sin somehow going very even in these team fights despite being about 12,000 gold ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are Sin, you do have to look at that. As I said, their team fighting comp isn't all that good, but still, when you're this far ahead, you could literally be playing Heimerdinger, and you should be able to win the game a little bit more cleanly than this. See whether they can get the last fight right.
Sin walk up to a turret and it almost falls down. Protocol will come out from Crazy just to get a little bit of poke damage, you could say. It's a nice crit shot comes on top of Flares.
However, that is the only form of real initiation they have, because 528 is unfortunately not strong enough to be that front line that they need. And unfortunately, mid-base can't keep the super creeps off the base.
That's a teleport on top of the Nexus. Sin have had enough. They're going for the victory here. 528 is going to get taken down as Flares threatens to end the game all by himself. Suddenly you have 5 members of Sin running into your base. Exile5, you've got to go for the fight, but the Shockwave stops it as Ryoma goes crazy at the start of the fight. Sin are going to be able to wipe the floor clean with Exile5 and pick up the Game 2 victory.
Yeah, and Ryoma, you can see why he's so confident on these control mages, able to start another team fight. Big grin on the new Sin member's face, but clean as a whistle.
Yep.
Game 2. No problems.
And we still got a bloodbath of 36 kills in the second game, which was 24 minutes long.
Yeah.
I mean, that was more than a kill a minute there. A kill a minute for Sin.
Yeah, a kill a minute game 1 as well. I mean, I love how the Des was like, you know, a little bit more controlled than we expected. 32-minute game, 35 kills. I mean, that's not controlled at all. That's an absolute massacre.
And I mean, XL5, you can see it on their faces, devastated with the loss there. But I think we say it quite a lot when they play. But again, they should look at those games and take good points away from it, because they did play well in some areas, still just not enough.
I agree, but they have to start winning lanes. All of League of Legends starts with having creeps on the other side of the map than your base. And if you can't do that, there's just no way that you're ever going to push in for objectives. And time again, I look at the map and there's just 3 waves of creeps streaming into their side of the map. So, I mean, there was certainly some good team fights. The coordination looks like it's there. The communication looks good. But just that early game is still so shaky.
And that wraps up both series for today. 2 very quick and clean 2-0s being picked up there. For now, though, let's give it back to the analyst desk to break down the rest of the day.
Thank you, Fish. Thank you, Spawn. Well, there we have it. Exile5 losing 0-2 versus Sin Gaming. And we see Alex and Mendrix, the Roma's debut here. Messy, but very confident.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed with that last game, especially. A lot of huge shockwaves. He knew when to hold on to it, when to use it. I think he can be confident about this performance, you know. Sure, there were a few slip-ups in game 1, but I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I'm really happy with the performance as well. And the great thing about knowing when to hold in to use those shockwaves as well is it's a threat that's being presented to the enemy team as well. Is it going to come in at that particular point? It creates a lot of zone controls, because sometimes holding the shockwave is actually the correct move instead of throwing it out there.
Yeah, compare those 2 games for us though, Mendrix. I mean, that first game, obviously, Bensel, in that interview, he said he wasn't really happy with how the team played. It was scrappy, it was messy. That second game, though, obviously looked a lot cleaner.
It looks a lot cleaner just in terms of Sin were completely in control of the map the entire time, and every single time they sort of happened to lose or ended up losing a little bit of those team fights, it purely was because there was just XL5 scrambling for a response afterwards, or maybe they overextended or overextended their stay a little bit too much, and XL5 wanted to get something, but they could never really fight back appropriately, never get the objectives.
Alex, when you look at these drafts here, in particular with XL5, what were they trying to do, and why weren't they able to do it?
Well, you can see the Kha'Zix. It's a really aggressive pick. They want to get active early. They want to get out early, but unfortunately, just the dominoes weren't falling for them that game. I see the idea, right? You know, you want to get snowballing. You want your jungler to get ahead. Poppy is a big presence that can help you turn small advantages into big advantages. But like Spawn said, you have to start winning these lanes eventually.
Well, what about Sin though, Mendrix? What are they trying to do? And were they able to go into the team into the team comp strategy that they started with, or did they have to change things throughout the game?
I feel like they didn't really need to change things throughout the game. They had a really strong team fighting composition put into place. Everything sort of, lined up with what their goals were to sort of be a 1-4 team. And really, Flares was just an absolute monster the entire time. For him to be so far ahead really helped them with their lane priority and allowed them to continue sort of winning lanes afterwards, because everything was all sort of off the back of him coming through afterwards and spreading his influence around the map.
Yeah, I have to wonder at some point, are these Renekton players, guys who are really looking to stretch their mechanical advantage over the opposing top laner, is this champion going to start being taken away from them? Because we saw Pabu destroy Pac-Man and still lose the series, but still, those games where he was destroying a Renekton, he was a beast. and today, Flares was just unstoppable. There was no answer.
Yeah, exactly that. I completely agree with that.
All right, Mendrix, well, tell us about the early priority that Sin were putting on Drakes in the game, because I felt like they were really going for them.
Yeah, and it was great for them to actually have that, because they did have a scaling composition. They did have the ability sort of, we managed to get this late. Having those extra Drakes would have been a great boon for them to have, and you can see they had the right idea here, getting that there, but it ends up being the downfall for them in the end, because the big thing is you need gold for those Drakes to actually scale and be effective. And if Sin are continuously beating you out every single time, continuing to have that control around the map, you're never really going to get those Drakes going. And although it's nice to have them, you really need to be able to have control around the map to use it properly.
Yeah, sorry, I said I said Sin Gaming. I should have said XL5, but I was just thinking about who won that team fight. All right, well, let's take a look at the Radiant Medal, our winner of Best and Fairest for this series, and it's going to go to Flares, who really looks unleashed in this new lineup for Sin Gaming, Matrix.
Well, really, every single time he was strong with it, with that Renekton the entire time through, and what it really provided for the rest of his team was controlling that top side of the map. Every single time you have to sort of put resources into it, and nothing was really coming back for them in the end. I mean, in the first game, he 2v1 and managed to come out top with a kill. Like, that's huge for him to get that.
Yeah, if this is the new Sin Gaming identity, 1-4, put Ryoma on a mage while Flares does his work, I think this is a great direction for them to go in. My one question is it going to stand up to top laners like Swiper, Chippies, and now even Series is in the mix?
Yeah, especially when you look at it in terms of it being a Renekton. I mean, they definitely know how to deal with that sort of team composition, and Renekton does fall off extremely hard towards that late game. So it really is going to be a problem when you do go up against those high-level tier teams that know how to deal with that sort of playstyle.
Does it surprise either of you that he only beat out Ryoma by one single point in that? Do you feel like Ryoma had a great series as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the big thing that you have to take into account for Ryoma is that this was his first time
So as a
coming to
debut,
it.
yeah.
As his debut, that was excellent for him to play. Not really, to deal with the land jitters, to be an effective, solid teammate that entire time. And that's what was good, and that was why it was a great performance for Ryoma specifically.
All right. Well, Jake Swantiver is standing by with FBI for the interview, so let's throw it over to them to see what he has to say.
Thanks so much, Michael. I am Jake Swanto, very joined by FBI. Best 80 carry, I've been told, rumor has it, on the leaderboard. First of all, talk to me about the 80 carry meta. Is it just annoying sitting on Asjid, Varus every game?
Yeah, definitely. The meta has shifted a lot to ADs being like more support-ish, especially now that we bought Roma, who's like such a mechanical mid. I'm just like delegated to this utility AD role.
All right, cool. Talk to me about Ryoma, though, because Legacy Genesis, Chief Sub, now finally unleashed on the OPL. I mean, he's a solo queue guy as well. How good is he?
He's really good. Like in terms of mechanics, I would say he's definitely top 2. I think he can take out Swiffer, but we'll have to see.
All right, cool. And the new identity of Sin seems to be 3 winning lanes, unlock juves around the map, and play an up-tempo game. How's that been working out for you guys? And, is it enjoyable at the moment?
Yeah, I just kind of hit creeps nowadays while everyone else just does their thing. But it's nice winning, so I'll just go with it.
All right, cool. And as an overall, now that you guys have finally solidified your roster, you're sitting equal 5th. Now you pick up 3 points. Whereabouts, what's the ceiling of this team? I mean, are you going to break top 4? What are the goals?
Yeah, I think top 4 is fine. I think we just want to make it into the gauntlet, and then from there, I think we can actually contest with the top teams.
All right, cool. And yourself personally, I mean, people talk about Lost a lot. People talk about the Rays and the Kings. How are you finding the OPL as your first split, and what's your ceiling like?
I think I'm up there. I don't think I'm the best, but I think I'm up there, and I definitely have the potential to be the best.
All right, cool. Definitely agree. I've loved watching you play. However, let's throw it back to Hingers and the rest of the desk to close out the night.
Well, there we have FBI, a very tempered view of his own abilities there, Alex and Mendrix, but a guy who has a lot of potential going forward.
I think he's allowed to talk a bit of trash there, but he's a humble guy. You know, that's fine. That's him.
He definitely has the right idea going into it. I mean, it is his first OPL split. It is his time to sort of sit back and say, what can I learn? What can I gain from this? And he definitely, sky's the limit for him coming through. FBI best carry, probably might see that happen one day.
All right, well, that brings us towards the end of today's broadcast, but let us quickly look at tomorrow's games because it is going to be a massive Sunday here at OPL, Avant-Garde versus Tainted Minds. A Tainted Minds squad, we don't exactly know who it's going to be. And then the match of the week, Legacy versus Chiefs, the El Clasico of the OPL. The El Clasico OPL. 1 versus 2 on the ladder. Do not miss this. It's going to be massive. Alex, you're going to be here tomorrow, unfortunately, but give us your predictions very quickly. I mean, who knows about the AV versus Tainted Mind game? Because who knows who's going to show up. But Legacy versus Chiefs.
Chiefs win every time. 2-1 Chiefs.
2-1 Chiefs. All right, well, Mendrix, I'll get your predictions tomorrow.
Who knows? It might change between that time.
Who knows? Hashtag IMOPL. Let us know your thoughts, and thank you so much for joining us. But that is the end of today's broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow.
FBI is going to get jumped on by Guts, but he's got no mana. And already Ryoma has a double kill. That's 3 kills for Sin. Look at Kunot's and Crazy. Rogue's going to join the fight as well. That's a double kill for Guts. Tegan will get taken down by Flares. Well, here comes the Tegan delivery service as Guts actually hops away from the fight. Grey Health gets popped. He gets taken down. Big shockwave coming out from Ryoma there as he flashes on forward. 2 kills already being picked up as they clean house of XR5 and look for the inhibitor. Down Guts in the backlines. They're looking like a good fight for them at the moment as XR5, they see the blinking health buzz of Sin. Ryoma shockwaves on top of himself for 5 to 8 to get taken down. Tegan's the next target. Crazy somehow still alive. Rogue will live through the trouble. Tegan has to flash away. Only you have 5 members of Sin running into your base. XR5, you've got to go for the fight, but the shockwave stops it as Ryoma goes crazy at the start of the fight. Sin are going to be able to wipe the floor clean with XR5 and pick up the Game 2 victory.
Being a part of the Chiefs and Legacy rivalry is very important to me and the whole team. I really want to prove myself to the fans and to my teammates as well.
For Legacy, I think this is like their big chance to prove themselves. Yes, they were able to take the series off Direwolves, but I wouldn't say Direwolves have looked all that convincing this split yet.
This match feels a lot more stressful than the other ones because obviously it's the Chiefs. They're super hard to beat. They're undefeated right now.
Whenever the Legacy match rolls around, we get asked a lot of questions like, oh, how are you coming up against Legacy? Like, oh, there's a big rivalry, that sort of thing. I feel like the rivalry is for them. It's not for us. Like, we beat everyone. That's our plan.
Looks like it could be game. Chiefs a 3-1 victory.
In total, I think we've versed the Chiefs about 4 or 5 times, and I think we are 1 win against them.
They come into the Chiefs game like, oh, Carvin's rallying the troops. He's like, oh, yeah, come on, boys, we got the Chiefs this weekend, let's go.
Because we came off the bye from last week, we've had a good solid 2 weeks of just practice going into this game. So we have a lot of tailored strategies for the Chiefs game that we probably wouldn't use against other teams, kind of trying to target what we think their strengths are.
We do switch out kind of our picks and bans depending on the team that we're playing against from week to week, but we have overarching themes that we need to adhere to in order to make us a better team in the long run.
2014 winter was a long time ago now, but that was the last time I won something. So it's been a long time coming.
I mean, us losing winter was sort of like a huge wake-up call for us. It pretty much destroyed all of us mentally for a few weeks to even a month.
I just expected to win, and then I didn't. And then it was just such this monumental gap between my expectation and reality that I just emotionally collapsed.
It wasn't a very good time, but it's what we need as a team to grow because we were never used to losing. We were always the team that won.
Obviously, I would love to taste a big tournament win again. It's been a long time, but that's something that that's the reason I still play is I really want that opportunity to go overseas again and represent us. We can't really rely on any other team to beat the Chiefs because we've dropped a game now. If we want to come first, we have to win this game.
I view the pinnacle of my career would be to making it to Worlds, for example. The pinnacle of their career would be to beat us. And it's just yeah, that's cool, but good luck.